Welcome, Staring Into the Abyss fans. This is Matt Brandenburg, and we ran into some fun Skype recording issues for this week's podcast. So you are going to miss the first 10 minutes or so of our recording. Every week we, behind the scenes, run into some issues with Skype, and usually it's Rich, but for whatever reason this week it was me and the fun recording option. So I apologize for that. And this week, just to let you know what we're covering, since you're not going to hear it in the intro, we are covering Michael Chabon's The God of Dark Laughter, which is in the April 2001 issue of The New Yorker. So hopefully you'll have fun and understand what we're going through and enjoy the rest of our show. Back, and then eventually the head IT guy of this building realizes something's wrong, so Max has kind of got to hypnotize him and trick him, and so it just like gets crazier and crazier, and at one point the 13th floor kind of leaks, and all the monsters and weird images kind of get projected throughout the building, and so Max has got to figure that out. And he's telling us the story. So each little issue, it's him talking to us, telling us what's happening. And like you can kind of start seeing him go crazier and crazier as it's going and getting angrier at everybody and like willing to do anything for his people. And it's a lot of fun. The artwork is just perfect. It's just these awesome black and white drawings of things and the monsters. And the images that he comes up with are just perfect. So if you can find it, I found it when I was over in London. So I don't know how easily it'll be over here, but it's definitely worth checking out. So 13th Floor, John Wagner. The other, I'm going to be our comic guy for the week because I will
say what they want to say. If you haven't read it, John Wagner's Judge Dredd America, fantastic.
I think I actually picked that up too because it's all kind of that same crew that did like Judge Dredd. They also did all these other things, and this is just one of them. So yeah, I'm excited for that. The other comic I picked up was and Rich, I know you read this, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. I loved this comic so much. It was so good.
That comic was one of the best reads of 2022 for me.
Totally. So for listeners, this is something 30 years.
I need this now.
Yeah, like 30 years in the future. And when the story opens up, we're focused on one of the turtles. We don't know which one. He's wearing a black band instead of one of the colors. And he's got all of the turtles' weapons with him. And he's invading the island of Manhattan, which has become kind of this like closed off prison thing. It's not really prison, but closed off area where Shredder's grandson is the leader. And so our turtle, our Last Ronin, is going to kill him. He's haunted by the other three ghosts of his turtle friends, and they all talk to him. And it's just this awesome story. The artwork, because it's Kevin Eastman and what's his name. So all their drawings, it's their story. They're going through and telling it. Every once in a while, we'll get a flashback to kind of what happened. And it's all very grisly, but it's just this awesome, gritty story that I love so much. We get a lot of Easter eggs and little hints to older stories and/or characters. I haven't, besides the movies and the cartoons, I've never really read any of the comics, but I kind of want to now. And just as somebody like that, and for our listeners, you don't have to know any of those things. They do a really good job of kind of bringing you up to date on what's happened and who all the characters are. So it's an absolute blast. I loved it. I agree. It's probably one of the best reads of 2022. And yeah, everyone needs to check that one out.
I need this in my life now.
Yeah, it's just so good.
It's a lot darker than I expected it to be, too.
Oh, yeah. They do not hold back.
I mean, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, they were pretty fucking dark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they like brutally killed the Foot.
Yeah.
Like the Footman. Like, holy shit, they brutally killed them. It's kind of like, you're like you, Matt. We're used to seeing just, the animated series. You're like, oh, they're just fun, goofy guys.
Yeah.
And then this shatters you. And you're like, oh my. It's like, a lot of people probably don't know it, but The Mask is a comic book.
Those are horror comics.
Yeah, horror comics.
Yes.
Like they are brutal.
Yeah, the Mask was really extreme. Like
Jesus. He was like a serial killer, basically.
Yeah. The original was. I didn't expect the original guys teaming up again all these years later to deliver a story that was just as dark. I thought maybe even a bit more darker than the original.
Yeah.
Comics. Like that's kind of what shocked me.
Yeah.
Also, what was cool is this never would have happened without the show The Toys That Made Us.
That's so crazy.
Because The Toys That Made Us is what got those two guys back in touch together.
Which is
and
awesome.
rekindled their friendship. Because they had the falling out because of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And like The Toys That Made Us was their chance to kind of rekindle things. And
well, I also thought it was crazy because at the end of this, they have like a little outro. And they had this planned, like this idea. They had a concept of the Last Ronin planned a long time ago, but then I'm guessing because of the fallout that never came out.
And they announced that they're doing more.
Oh,
they have a series coming out called The Last Ronin: The Lost Years.
Oh, I like that.
So I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely. No, you definitely need to read it. It was super cool.
It's on my to-do list.
The last thing I'll bring up real quick and is like once we get into our God of Dark Laughter story, because I had a question on timing of that. But anyway, the book I read was Four White Horses and a Brass Band by Violet McNeal, which I think was recently republished. This is a sort of autobiography from Violet McNeal, which was one of these really famous con men, or con woman in this case, back in the 20s. And like, if you saw Nightmare Alley or read that book, this is kind of the real version of that. Yeah. So she is writing about all the it's basically a how-to manual almost on becoming a con man in that time, and just what all of the different cons that can happen and how to do that. Her story is just so she was like and I'm going to draw a blank because it's been a little bit since I read it, but she was like in Iowa or something like that. And she answered a little ad when she was like 16 that they needed somebody. And it turned out that she was working for this doctor who was a con man who would figure out ways how to con people, how to make certain things and sell it, and the whole biz of being on the street corner and being able to talk your way into getting people to buy stuff for you and come up with these crazy doctor office experiments and things just to get money from people, and like what that whole world. And so she kind of gets sucked in and does all of those tricks. Like they go into very graphic detail on the whole again in Nightmare Alley, when it's like them practicing, like if I say this word and this word and this word, that means this person is wearing a watch and this watch means something or other. They have a very detailed description on like what that process was and like how detailed you could make it and what phrases you can say. And it's just fascinating to like see it in working in real life as opposed to the movie. And like it talks about how they can trick sheriffs into letting them do these certain things and just wear this. It's fascinating. And like at one point she's just deciding she's gonna go out on her own and kind of do this. And the doctor, it's interesting because he's like in his 50s, or he was really old and he married her, but he didn't want any, like he just needed her to kind of help keep his game going. And so he always kind of knew. It's almost like that Sith Lord Star Wars thing of like, I always knew you were going to go and betray me or be somebody else. So I'm like, I'm training you to also figure out how to do that. And I'll let you do your own thing. And the concept of the cover or the title of 4 White Horses and a Brass Band that's what she always wanted. She'd seen famous con men come into town and they would have these huge parades, again, just to sell these crazy snake oil things. And she was like, I'm going to have one of these big brass bands that are going to carry me into the town and everyone's going to adore me and want me to be here while I sell them nothing and make all this money and just trick them into believing these things worked. So it's absolutely fascinating. It's a bit, I mean, she wrote it probably in the 40s and 50s, and she has got a certain, as you can imagine, language and colorful view on the world, being a con woman. So be ready for that. They didn't, when they republished it, it's all in there. So there's a couple times when you're reading it, you're like, oh, all right, these views don't stand up anymore. But, that was the time. And especially for people who were trying to con others for a living, that totally makes sense. But it just sounds like such a crazy time. They would go their summers, all con men would summer in California, and they would rent these like 2 or 3 houses, and there would be like 10, 12 of these con people in there, and they would just do daily sales things. And it just sounds like this crazy, when you imagine like the 60s and like these Hyatt Asbury streets of just these huge parties. It's what it sounds like, but they would be doing it to sell stuff. So like people would know, they would have to know, the regular person walking by, that that's what these people were doing. But it would be like 10, 12-hour sales pitches that would happen every day. It's just absolutely insane. So yeah, it was a fun discover and read. And really interesting, especially after recently, and as of this past year, watching Nightmare Alley and reading the book, to kind of see the real life version of all that. So 4 White Horses and a Brass Band.
I gotta check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, there's some slow spots only because it's so detailed in like how to do a con, which can be interesting, but doesn't. You're not moving the story along because it's almost like an instruction manual, but it's still fascinating to hear the inner workings. But yeah, I think those are my recommends for the week.
Vitlame, what about you?
I feel like I can't really talk about Andor because we did so much of it already.
Did you finish it though?
But I did finish it, yes.
Yes.
Oh, the finale was great. Andor was one of the shows I watched when I was sick.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, at the in the last episode, my most worrying thought was about B.
I know.
I was like, if anything happens to B, I will murder someone. That robot is a golden retriever, and you can't convince me otherwise.
So great. I was gonna ask you, because the last week a lot of the discussion was on, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a complete blank on the lady that was basically raising Andor?
Marva?
Yes. How'd you feel after her speech?
It was awesome. It was
Wasn't
amazing.
It?
Yes, I was tearing up.
Yes.
I teared up and I was like, this. I got goosebumps and everything. I was like, yes. And I like if I hadn't been watching like late at night, I probably would have screamed like two when she said, "Go fight the Emperor." I'm like, yeah.
It was just so awesome.
It was amazing. I can't wait for season 2. If they do not bring season 2, I will be pissed off.
Andor is such an incredible show.
I mean, I feel like they're gonna make a season 2. It got nominated and everything like that, so there's no way that
they already said it's going to be 2 seasons.
Oh, nice.
And season 2 is going to lead right into Rogue One.
Awesome.
Oh my God, we're gonna get the Kay. We're gonna get Kay. I'm so happy to see Kay again. Look at me being so happy to see robots.
I know. It's so funny.
The Andor was great.
Yeah, it was really great. But I also finished Wednesday.
Oh, how was that?
It was entertaining. It wasn't like the best thing ever. It's a good murder mystery show.
Yeah.
And Jenny Ortega, she's killing it as the Wednesday. She's amazing. She's so good. I admire her that she did not like put up a smile. Like her facial expression was basically the same the entire time.
I love Luis Guzman as Gomez.
Oh, that's where I differ. I did not like him as Gomez.
I love Gomez.
Because being brought up from the movies and the animated series.
Oh yeah.
I've always pictured my Gomez. I'm not talking that he has to be like handsome. I don't care about that. But he has to be full of life and just full of vigor and just do everything crazy.
Yes.
I see Gomez as going like see a car and like, hey, should we go run it off down a cliff?
Yeah.
This is how I see Gomez, and he did not deliver that. He was just wimpy and just like, no.
I haven't finished it. I've only seen the first 3 episodes.
Yeah. So I was really disappointed how he did Gomez. I was like, what? You had potential, Luis. because he is an animated actor.
Yeah.
So I felt like that like this. Why did I'm looking accusatory eyes at Tim Burton. He probably didn't allow him to do that.
Yeah.
Because they had to do a set tone for the series. Because Wednesday was supposed to be the stoic character, and so I think the rest of the family was supposed to be like that as well. While the polar opposite, her roommate Enid, was like this bubbling, full of life kind of person. So maybe that was the reason. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I loved the guy who played Fester.
Oh yes, that's Fred Armisen.
Yes, Fred Armisen. Like I kept looking and I was like, is it him?
Yeah.
And then I went on IMDb and I was like, holy crap, it's him. And then I was like, you actually got perfect for Fester. But going off with the movies and with the animated series, I kind of wanted to be a little thicker.
Yeah.
He has to be a little thicker,
Yeah.
But he got the mannerism and he got his laugh perfectly.
Oh, that's great.
So I was like, okay, Fester is amazing. Katrina Zeta-Jones, she was a little bit more subdued. Like, it was kind of like with Gomez. Like, they were both really subdued. They weren't really allowed to shine.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, when they go to for the flashbacks, like when Morticia and Gomez are young, their younger counterparts were much more full of life, and I'm like, yeah, why didn't you cast them as the originals? I was like, oh, that's disappointing.
Oh man.
But I really enjoyed it. I mean, like it's a lighthearted murder mystery. I mean, I was halfway into the series and I immediately knew who was responsible for the murder, and I'm like, I know who it is. But the reveal was still fun nonetheless.
Well, that's good.
So I mean, if you want something lighthearted, I mean, I watched 3 episodes like an evening maybe. So it's not long. So I think it's about 20 or 30-minute episode or something like that.
Oh, that's
So you
not
can,
bad.
yeah. So you can you can definitely binge it. And this is not a recommendation though.
Uh-oh.
I watched Troll yesterday.
Oh.
Oh boy.
How bad was it?
I couldn't decide.
I already had low expectations. Like I had already, like my husband and I, we watched it together, and we both knew like this is gonna suck. And sucked it did. Oh dear Lord, they were trying so, because this is a Norwegian movie, and we had it with the original audio, like with them talking Norwegian and everything, which is because we can sometimes understand what they're saying because it's similar. But they kind of had to like Americanize it.
Oh really?
It's basically the Norwegian version of Independence Day. Only worse.
Only worse. Oh
only
man.
Worse. Yeah, it's worse.
Well, and I had wondered when I saw the trailer, I was like, this looks like a 90s movie.
Yeah.
So you saying Independence Day, that explains why.
Like, that is why. Like I kept like as I watched it, I was like, why? What's with the epic music? This is not Norwegian. What's with the helicopters? Like, do the Norwegian army even have helicopters? And then they have like this kind of underground base below Oslo, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like, I know you guys have an army, but it's not that impressive. I'm sorry. And I apologize to any Norwegians who are probably listening to this. So yeah, this might be by just my Icelandic ignorance or something like that, or like not having an army. I can't really tell what's considered big or not. I don't know. But it's just, yeah, it was so weird, and especially with how the being came in, like how the troll came into the picture. Like they were making a tunnel through a mountain, and there were these protesters there. And they were just saying, "Let the mountain live," and I'm like,
"Oh my god,
what?" And I was like, "How? What? That doesn't make any sense." Because I kept thinking, because I understand with like if you wanna protect like how should I say, like for example in Iceland there was a lot of protest way up north, like or the northeast. They were kind of doing like this kind of hydro
like fracking.
No. We don't have oil. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
No. They were utilizing one of the waterfalls to like in hydroelectricity.
Oh, okay.
And there were protesters there for a long time because they said we shouldn't be messing with nature like that.
Okay.
And I was like, it was almost that kind of feeling, but I was like, what is mountain giving you?
Yeah. And it's not like they're
like it gives you ore, which you need to build houses, you fucking dicks.
And like from what you just described, I mean, they were just doing a tunnel. They weren't trying to take the whole mountain down.
No, they were just going through a tunnel, and they were like protesting that. I'm like, why? Like this is the most stupid thing I've ever seen protesting. There were so many things, and like the main character is a paleontologist,
of course,
whose father is a professor of folklore and everything, but they bring her first into this secret bunker where the minister of defense and the prime minister are there, and I'm like, why are you bringing her? She doesn't know shit about what's happening.
That is amazing. Well, she's going to tell us about these rocks. Come on now.
Yeah, well, because, she had heard these stories from her father, of course, about trolls and everything. And when she sees the footage that was like leaked out by one of the protesters who then died, I don't know, it's so stupid. And then she's like, I have a feeling I know who it is, but I'm not gonna tell you because it sounds fucking stupid. And I'm like, then why are you here?
Yeah.
And then she kind of like is talking over everything, and I was like, you are talking to like literal experts on warfare and everything, and you're a paleontologist. What do you have to bring on the table?
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Like dead fossils, really? Like what the fuck? It was just so fucking stupid. And then there was like, and then she like befriends one of the like army guys who's a captain, and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be so fucking stupid. And the army guy gives the Philip Pullman speech, Pullman speech.
Wow!
I'm not even kidding. I love it. It's so fucking bad, and the troll kind of isn't like an antagonist. Like it is just walking around, and it's like heading towards Oslo, and then the prime minister and the minister are like, we need to evacuate Oslo, and I'm like, that's gonna take you like maybe a day. I mean, Oslo is not that. It's not New York. Like what the fuck? But they still had like people, like cars, and like waiting in rows, and I'm like, what? What?
Oh how big is this troll?
And of course they had to do like, we need to nuke it.
Of course.
They had to send missiles on the fucking troll. And the funny thing is, it was so stupid, is that among all the other stupid things that happened in this fucking movie, is that it was walking around during the day. And I'm like, according to lore, as much as I know about it, they get turned to stone during the day.
Yeah.
But they found a loophole, you see. It has to be direct sunlight.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
That is amazing. We're in a surprising cloud front for the next 3 weeks. It's amazing.
I mean, and it was like in the middle of summer, and I kept like thinking like, wait. And I asked my husband, I'm like, wait, the summertime, isn't it similar like with our summertime? And he's like, a little bit. And I'm like, would it be then like bright during the summer like here?
Oh my god.
Like bright during the night. So
oh god. How big was the troll?
About 10 to 15 feet, I think.
And they used a nuke on it?
It wasn't that fucking big. I mean, it probably was as big as the Empire State Building or something like that, maybe.
Okay, so that was kind of big. But
no, I mean, but I'm saying it's like Godzilla, I think, was bigger.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was like, Godzilla size or smaller?
I mean, it was like, yeah. For me, when I looked at it, I was like, it doesn't look that big.
Like, we just push it over.
It's just, yeah. I mean, and it's so funny because they kind of like really wanted to make it seem like, the troll was the antagonist, and I'm like, it's not. And why are you bringing it there? You could have like put any other thing there.
Oh my gosh! Did it talk?
No, he just moans and whimpers and like wails.
It cries. It's all sad.
He's just crying because he's the only one left of his kind, and he's searching for the corpses of his family, which probably are strewn everywhere because they're fucking mountains.
Oh my god!
And just to like pile on the fucking Independence Day thing, like the main protagonist, the paleontologist's father, who was the professor of folklore, he got cuckoo, so he was basically Randy Quaid.
I was just gonna ask.
And he got Randy Quaid in the fucking movie also.
Did they? Oh my god! Oh. Was he a pilot? Secret pilot?
No. But he was the one who knew everything, and it was like, it's a troll. Why doesn't everyone believe me? And I was like, I mean, I would believe you. They have seen it on the fucking screen, but they were like, we don't know what it is. We were like, okay, you guys live in fucking troll culture, but okay then.
Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, so the professor will have him be on the side, since he failed. That they made him like a driller. Like he would, or like he would lay cement somewhere, and so he knew all about rocks. And it's like,
it was just so weird. Like he had like a book, like this kind of like crazy conspiracy theory book, basically about all the trolls and everything. And
oh god!
And apparently this I don't know if this is in Norwegian culture. I don't think it's in our Icelandic troll culture, but apparently they can smell Christian men.
Oh my god!
And if they smell Christian men, they will eat them.
Okay.
So basically what brought them down was the Christianization of Norway, and I'm like, I snorted there. I was like, nah.
Oh,
okay, so
wow.
basically, if you want to be safe from the fucking troll, is to renounce your faith.
Yeah.
I think that sure might be a bit too much into black metal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It was just, it was a whole lot of shit. And I'm like, I'm glad I had my expectations low.
Oh, wow.
If you want to watch a troll movie, I think Troll Hunter is better.
Yes.
Troll Hunter is a great movie.
I did like that movie.
Yeah, I mean, because it kind of feels more like there's a threat.
Yeah.
With that fucking troll, there was no fucking threat. He did nothing. He was basically walking, and when the army came and shot at him, and he got pissed. I mean, can you blame him?
Yeah, right. He's just doing his own thing.
Vitlame.
Yeah.
Guess what Troll has on Rotten Tomatoes?
How much?
Guess.
100%.
5?
Higher.
10?
Higher.
No, come on, 50?
90%.
Oh my god.
No.
Yes.
I guess people like stupid shit.
Yeah. This is true.
And definitely because it was Americanized, I think a lot of people enjoyed more. Oh boy.
It has a 90% critic score and 48% audience score.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a little bit better.
Critics are starving for good stuff.
Yeah, I just want to get that Netflix.
Or I don't know. I don't know the director. Maybe it was his debut. Maybe they're just being kind to him. I don't know. For me, I was like, nope, that's a hard pass.
Oh god, that is amazing.
But,
do they kill the troll in the end?
Yes, of course they do.
Of course they do.
And they make it seem like, oh, woe is us. We shouldn't have done that, but we did it anyway. We had to protect the city, and I'm like, oh, fuck you.
There's a scene where the troll looks at his hands and he's like, these hands. As
he's dying, yeah.
Yes.
And the protagonist, of course, gets close to it as it's dying, like, and looks into the eye, and I'm like,
a single rocky tear
almost
rolls out.
Almost.
And then they keep it. And then they make babies.
No, you know what they did? I was like, there was like the biggest slap on the fucking monster, like on the fucking troll, like as it died. You know, because it turned to stone, like up on a hill, and they were like, then they all joined, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, this is so sad. So, what are we gonna call it? Should we call it Troll Hill, or should we call it Victory Road, or something?" And then the protagonist, like, because her dad got Randy Quaid, she's like, "No, let's call it after my dad." And I'm like, why? It's a fucking Troll King. Give him his own name.
Yeah, nope, he doesn't count.
Yep, that's true, people.
Oh wow! Did he like lay babies anywhere?
No, like I said, the thing is, the ending had an end credit scene.
So is it the end, or
hinting at a sequel?
It's just like this tiny little, like, I don't know, tiny lawn rock that starts shaking.
No. Like there was a rumbling in the tunnels where it was discovered.
Well, Vitamin, just to let you know, this director has a lot of accomplishments.
Oh no.
He has directed Tomb Raider.
Okay.
No, really?
Yeah, the newest Tomb Raider movie.
Okay.
Oh my god. That explains a lot, I think.
He also directed a movie called The Wave.
Okay.
That was also an Independence Day clone.
Is a disaster movie.
See?
He has a flair for that, I guess, or a fetish. I don't know. Don't know how to describe it.
It's a sentient wave.
And then he has a bunch of other movies that have no critic scores.
Oh. Shocker.
And the audience scores, only one of them has a positive audience score.
Which is Troll.
No, Troll's a negative audience score. Escape. And Escape has no critic score.
Oh. Jeez.
Yeah.
He also directed a movie called Magic Silver and a movie called Cold Prey.
Oh. It's about Killer Snow.
It's not good, guys. I mean, if you want to laugh your ass off and see like a rip-off, a Norwegian rip-off of Independence Day, you should definitely check it out.
I kind of do.
I kind of want to see this now. I'm not going to lie.
You refresh my memories, though, again. The Trolls and Troll Hunters, they didn't have a tail, now, did they?
I don't think so.
No, yeah, this one has a tail. Because Norwegian trolls have tails, actually. It is said that in the culture. So I'm like, okay, you got that correct.
They got one part right.
Did they have to pay the trolls toll?
Nope.
They
didn't want to get into that boy's hole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, soul.
I actually rewatched The Nightman Cometh like a few days ago.
Oh, God, that. I love that so much.
That show is fucking, it's something else.
I'm gonna go pop in my cat eyes, going for gasps.
I mean, it's. I had to do an Always Sunny in Philadelphia joke. I'm sorry, Villa May.
That's okay.
Oh man. Well, should we talk about a dead clown?
Yeah, let's go talk about this dead clown.
All right.
So, I'm still flabbergasted this was published in the New Yorker.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit miffed that we didn't get more.
Yeah.
I was actually that engaged that I wanted to know more about what was happening.
He created such an interesting mythology in this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then he just left us high and dry, and I'm like, oh.
Right? It just sort of ended. And I was like, oh wait.
It's like, oh, by the way, I stopped doing that. Bye.
Yeah. Peace.
Yep.
I mean, it does end with a terrible guffaw. So.
Okay.
Yes, they did. It did not make me laugh though.
No.
So, in The God of Dark Laughter by Michael Chabon, a clown is found murdered in the woods with his entire skull skin carved off.
Yeah.
And Edward D. Staterly is our narrator. And he's trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, he's the district attorney.
Which I kind of find funny that he is like, I'm on the case.
I know. I was. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know enough on the way things work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same with me. I was like, I thought they were like, get me the guy who did this, and I will be involved then.
Yeah. Instead, he's like, I'm in it.
Mm-hmm.
I love how the first thing we get is a bunch of boys who just stab the body with knives.
They didn't stab the body with knives.
No, they didn't. They were going to do it to maybe something else. Yeah, to squirrels instead. So they don't get any redemption from me for that.
Yeah, and the police come, and now we're gonna find out what the fuck this clown's doing.
or why it's dead.
Clown's dead. Who is this clown? What's this clown's name?
Yeah. Well, and so all right. I guess like my first question is what year do you think this took place in? Was this like early 19? I mean, like we get some dates. Like there's a cave from a guy who died in like 1919. I feel like there was another date in here of like 1920s, mysterious earthquake of 1919, and then there was
I have a feeling it's not where the computers are still, because you have this scene where he has to go to the library to retrieve books and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe like yeah. So I kind of have a feeling maybe 50s, 60s.
Yes. Okay.
I was thinking 40s, 50s.
Yeah, like 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I think that's like the timeline that we're in.
Yeah, and I guess like for listeners, that doesn't matter too much. I was just trying to like place, because again, like talking about Poe and Lovecraft and Ligotti, just trying to like get that concept, and it starts like it's in the time of where circuses are still pretty popular and they travel and they come around and everything like that. So you kind of just to like get you in that mindset as you're reading this of like, this is that time frame of where we're at and what's happening in the story. So I was just, again, kind of like, because I kept thinking, because we get some names in here, I'll say that right off kind of tip you to the Lovecraft thing. The Yuga, it's not Yuga. I'm trying to remember what that name is. I'm flipping through it right now, but like,
it's like ear, basically. I think.
Yeah.
Like
and they're
WRRH.
Yeah, and like even at the start, the Yuga Henny County Road, and it's spelt very similar to like Yugoth kind of thing. So like you get these hints right away, and so you kind of already are like, okay, this is gonna be some sort of Lovecraftian concept. And I should also say, getting with Lovecraft and Poe, this is all a resignation letter that this district attorney is writing. Which again is really funny because the language in this is very like big, verbose words.
Yeah, and it's funny because, as you mentioned, like at the beginning of the story, he lets us know that this is his resignation letter. But I, like, as I got engrossed in the story, I had completely forgotten about it.
Yeah,
same.
Until the end, and I was like, wait, what? And then, and I felt cheated.
I felt cheated. Yeah. No, it's that like I started thinking about it halfway through again, because I was like, you're kind of following, and again, set in the time, and the sheriff or district attorney, and just the way the town, and he's described, like I kept thinking about it when I started reading these really deep, long words. I was like, man, this district attorney has a language, and it's interesting considering it is a resignation letter. So I was like, wow, this is crazy.
And he also kept telling us that this was basically a hick county. Wasn't really a sophisticated county, and I'm like, then wouldn't you write it then in layman terms?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, even like, again, to go to that start with the kids hunting squirrels and everything, because that's what they're eating. They eat squirrel stew and stuff like that. So you kind of get this concept of what this county and what this is. And I know we're more focused on the language right now than the actual story, but it really stands out as you're reading this and thinking of it as a resignation letter. You're just like, every other sentence, you have like 3 or 4 words that you're like, what does this mean?
I mean, now that I think about it, it might have been like he felt he didn't belong in that place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was like our hint to see like he was kind of like considered an other among the others.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I can see that. I also think part of it too is the especially when it's close to the end and we learn about the different, I guess you could call them clown gods, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We
Or,
learn
yeah.
about different, like philosophies, and you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
tell it deeply affects him as well.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I think that also leads to his resignation because it kind of gets to this existential crisis in his life. I'm like, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
I mean, due to what happened to his family, I can definitely see
Right.
Yeah.
where that is coming from.
Yeah.
And the bizarre corpses that they're finding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, for listeners, again, we're reading this resignation letter. It opens up with them finding a. It takes a little bit for them, interestingly, to describe him as a clown on what he's wearing, and I do think that was kind of funny. There's a part where they're like, "They can't be his real shoes," and they're like, "Yeah, they're clown shoes."
You dope.
Yeah, you don't. And so they're trying to figure this out. He was found in the woods. We get a call to the circus that they thought he was a part of, and we get like just a tiny hint when the, I don't know, ringmaster or whoever the manager was of the circus is like, was there anything wrong with his head? And when we don't get the full details, or he doesn't give the full details to that manager, but then quickly we're like, okay, something else is the circus knows about this, which ties into the later story. And the way Chabon like kind of teases us with our district attorney's story on what happened to his family and how he was raised all kind of play into what happens when we get to the end. I did really like this because it reads like a Poe story, detective kind of thing where we're getting all these little pieces and we're slowly going into the procedure of them trying to figure it out. And we even get like a hint or like a little jab or joke about a Poe story in here, which we can get to in a minute. But I did think it was interesting how he was kind of like hinting at what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Sorry, I'm just like flipping through real quick. I thought it just because we get a baboon. I guess we go right to that.
We get a baboon.
Yeah, that took me by surprise. I was like, I wasn't intrigued. And then if I'm to quote Leonardo DiCaprio, like when the baboon arrived, I was like, you have my interest now.
Yeah, because and now I'm like, it's interesting because they're starting to wonder if it's like somebody that hates clowns that's killing clown people. And so thought I like that touch to throw us off a little.
I think it's also kind of interesting that it is common for clowns, like in these kind of circuses, to have this kind of animal companion, like usually a chimpanzee though. So to use a baboon, they are known to be aggressive, but if you read a little bit about how chimpanzees are actually the worst companions. I mean, if you haven't seen Nope, then you will get a good, clear fucking picture of what it means to have a chimpanzee as a companion.
What are you talking about? It's an angel.
Yeah, no.
Angel.
No. So yeah, it was kind of interesting that like, let's give the guy a baboon, and I'm like, okay then, because and I was actually kind of worried for the guy when he jumped on him and hugged him, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna die.
Yeah, I was like, well, this is an interesting development. And again, that goes to kind of what you're saying. I was like, well, he is writing a letter, so he can't die.
Yeah.
But
I also had the same dread, like, oh no, there's an animal in this story.
Yes.
And it's a horror story. They're never safe.
Yeah, and I was kind of like hoping, and I'm glad that he did kind of call out the Poe story, because I was like, man, I hope this isn't just the simple answer to this is exactly like the story where it was like, oh, the baboon killed him.
Mm-hmm. No, because they got like like the baboon had a finger, and I'm like, and now I was too engrossed in the investigation. I'm like, okay, interesting. So how are you gonna run tests on this?
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, oh no, this is the 40s, 50s, or 60s. You don't have that shit. So how are you gonna do this?
Right.
Because he could tell, like, this might be a woman, and I'm like, interesting. Do continue.
Yeah. Well, and I like that. That's a good point to bring up, is they do kind of comment, or at least show, where they find this cave that they think the clown was living in, and they're like, well, don't touch anything. Our CSI guys got to get here, I think, the next day or something. It's like, just like, you're kind of getting that hint of like things are in that time progressing, but they're still like really slow. And it's exactly what you said, though. Like when they look at that finger, they're like, well, because the nail is long, it's got to be a female. And then they're like, well, it's not painted. They're like, but and so it's just kind of this interesting,
because males at that time couldn't have long, slender fingers. Am I right?
Yeah, right. And like they describe it, it's not even that long of a nail. But
nope.
I love when they get to the cave, like just after with that scene too, and they're like, they found the book he was reading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Über das Fistrelachen by a man named Frederick von Junst.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes, pretty heavy reading for a clown.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like these
it's not a rubber chick hosing each other down with seltzer bottles, Jack.
Uh-huh. Yep. I do like the fact that like he was sophisticated enough that he wasn't this like had like these stereotypes in his mind. He was like, I mean,
yeah.
He just looks at the detective like, you're supposed to be a fucking detective, man. What the fuck? Do your job.
Right.
It's like you're making me do all the job, and I kind of like wish I was detective.
Right, which then makes you wonder that maybe that's why he's out there as the district attorney. You're like, oh, maybe their detective just isn't that good.
Yeah, I think it kind of is. I mean, it shows that the guy is like really inept at his job.
Yeah.
And like you kind of get this feeling through like how he's writing this resignation letter that he's been dealing with this for far too fucking long, that he's probably at this point when this murder happened, he's like, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah. He's like, it's my time.
Also, I want to read this one quote from the baboon scene when he's like talking to the baboon.
Yeah.
And he goes, "The baboon declined to answer my question. After a moment, though, he raised his long, crooked left arm and gestured vaguely toward his belly. The import of this message was unmistakable, and thus I have the answer to my question. If he could not open a can of Franks and beans, he would not have been able to perform that awful surgery on his owner or partner."
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way he comes to that conclusion. Like really can't open the Franks and beans, so how could he do this?
Yeah. Yep. No, I did like that. I was like, and again, it helped answer.
And it just shows off his intellect as well.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. Which then like also leads us to him doing the research on those books at the library. And then this is where we kind of get more into, say, like the Legati and the Lovecraft of this story, which is these two, the god of, was it like the cult of wailing and then the cult of sorrowful laughter or something like that, which I really liked and was, again, like you said, surprised this stuff was in the New Yorker, because it's all about like this basic clown cult before clowns was just laughing at the absurdity of life, and they would skin recently deceased people and wear their faces and dance around. I was just like, holy crap.
And inbreeding.
And inbreeding, lots of inbreeding.
Lots of that.
Lots of inbreeding.
Which, like, again, is like at the time, and then once we get to the end of the story, you're like, okay, maybe this makes sense.
I got it. So it was the two groups are the Yehe, the god of dark laughter, and that of I, the god of unbearable and ubiquitous sorrow.
Yeah. And they would
so basically it's the masks of that you see on theaters. Like the smiling mask and the frowny mask.
Yep.
I'm putting it in layman terms.
Yeah. Well, I love that they were basically like the sorrowful, or the second group is basically there just to take down the clown group.
Yeah, because misery loves a company.
Yeah, and so you're just like, okay, these two crazy cults.
I love the Sorrow One's philosophy, where what is it? It's I just found it and then I lost it. But it's like you believe like the universe was just thrown over God's shoulders, who's just left us and ignored everything after making this creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a very like Lovecraftian, Lagodian kind of thing to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like just the fact that
it was really like it got dark there, and I was like, "Huh, look at that!"
Yeah.
And then same thing, like I mean, and then I'd like start chuckling, like it makes sense.
I just love.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
The unfathomable. I can't pronounce right now.
It's all right. There's some wacky words in here. But no, I love just this idea of the clown priests, and like I'm guessing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole part of the inbreeding was to help with the smiles and the pale faces.
That's what I think it was. Yeah,
which is disturbing to say the least if you think about it.
I know. Imagine being like with a permanent grin on your face the entire time.
Yeah.
So this universe is a cosmic joke, so you're laughing back at the face of the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very like, and I did love like, so again, small town. He's at the library, and he's kind of like, we're not going to have these books, but like he finds it like in this just tome, and it's just like these couple passages, but it's enough of like a dark passage to be like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And like, so we have this, and then he falls asleep with the books under his head.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when we get sort of which I really liked.
It's like a Lovecraftian nightmare.
Yeah, and it kind of really captures his real life, because throughout the story we sort of get these hints of his son died, his wife committed suicide, and then you also get this story about how he was raised, where his mom was basically in a cult.
Yeah.
But
and he managed to get out of it.
Yeah, he got out of it, and then she like, it's interesting because she was in a cult, but what I gathered was she was kind of like using people as well, because there was that one drunk that she kind of like, I don't know, they were together for a bit, but then like he was a drunk driver. I don't know, like it's interesting because like we get these hints, and then you get the dream, and he's sort of watching it all and then just laughing at the insanity of it all. Which like, was that because he was sleeping on top of the books, or was that him after reading this realizing that?
I mean, I think after reading the stuff, it might have affected his subconscious, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see like in the earlier passages that he doesn't want to talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Like you see it, like what happened to his family. He's like, I'm not here to talk about that, and he's repressing it. But after reading about this cult thing, like with the sorrow cult and the laughter cult, might have just all brought it all up to the surface again.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I interpret it.
I like that. I think that makes sense. Because it does seem like that. And like you're again, like you have those and you have him like drinking more. And then it seemed like there was a point where when he was, because he had sort of mentioned, and I guess I could flip through and find it, but working with the detective, they had already had like a weird situation previously, which I'm gonna have a question about in a moment. So I'll put a pin on that one. So maybe like again reading this and then just kind of thinking about it all kind of got to him. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, because everything can be triggering, of course, especially if you're repressing it.
Right. And dealing with a lot because clearly he's dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, how are you not messed up over what happened to his family? Like,
yeah.
And it's like, and again, this is like a nod to the timeline here. Is in which they're not supposed to be fragile about it. They're supposed to carry on and just not talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta repress it, push it down, act like everything's fine.
All right. So the question I was gonna have before we get kind of to the end of the story is, like, what is going on with that town? Is that town have a little bit more tie to this than we are getting? And the reason I asked that. Oh no, go on.
I think it does.
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking that, like, because there's the mysterious earthquake in 1919 with the two and like the two people that would give tours of the caves were rumored to be weird. Obviously,
the Green Man in 1932.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just there's even that like hint at the library where the librarian asks if the clown was German and that there was already a German person that came by to pick up a book. So
I
yeah,
think
I was just
they
wondering.
had and especially not only that, but also like the phone call he had with the general manager of the circus.
Yeah.
It's like they all had a feeling that there was something up.
Yeah.
Especially the general manager was when he asked like the specifics of what had happened to his face.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, you know something, my man. You're not telling us.
Yep.
And again, I am still miffed that I didn't get more.
Yeah. I know.
This was looking like a Legodian detective noir or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I want that.
Yeah. There's just so much like that he hints at in this story that you're like, this could be a lot. Like, I mean, again, like you said, yeah. I mean, like you said, the Twin Peaks kind of thing, you do sort of have that with just especially the weird stuff happening around the town and just, this would be an awesome story to like expand upon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I do.
But we don't get that.
No, no. Just it lets us,
it just abruptly ends.
Yeah. I did like, so we get to, I guess even before we get to the end part, just for everybody, it's free. Like, I think you get a free read on New Yorker, so you can go hop on and read this. We were doing some research before the show, and Rich, you did find us in a couple places, right?
Yeah, I'd say that the best place to get this would be either from the New Yorker, or if you're a fan of Abyss and you haven't bought or read The Weird Compendium by Anne and Jeff Vandermeer, buy that. This story's in it. It's some of the best weird fiction you'll ever come across in one book.
Yeah.
So exactly. I highly recommend checking that out. But you can find this story in there. There's a couple other anthologies you can find it in. But if you type in The God of Dark Laughter on Google, it'll take you right to the New Yorker, and you can read it right there.
And I'll link it in the story notes, but just in case, because I don't actually like, I'm not sure how many articles you can read on the New Yorker before they charge you. So if you're like somebody who reads it a lot, either you already subscribed so you can find this, or hopefully you haven't read it, New Yorker stuff, so you can jump on. But anyway, it's a great story. I love it. just to get to the end of this story and how it sort of pulls us into everything that's happened. They finally get the like autopsy report, and I think I did like this, where it gives us enough of what's happening, or at least why this clown is. Though actually, you know what? It's a good question. So basically, we find out that the clown had hemophilia, and which they claim is a sign of inbreeding. And then had the baboon tattoo. And then this gets to that sign of the skin stuff, and I thought was just like a perfect kind of thing, is they have found the clown's suitcase or makeup case locked. And so they got it unlocked, and we get at the very end of this that they looked through, found all the clown stuff, but they didn't find any white grease paint. And what they did find was foundation that was described as olive male, which I like now putting together the fact that it was putting on like makeup to not
flesh skin stones.
Yes, which is just amazing.
Well, because like I said, with the inbreeding, they came with such pale skin that it was just completely white, so they had to disguise themselves.
Yeah, just
it's the grease paint. They're normal olive painting. They're getting the regular skin tones on their face to hide.
Like Tim Burton Batman's Joker.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, just thinking about that, and then thinking about this cult thing, it's just wild. So I guess the question, like you said, this sort of just ends. They found a bullet hole in him. Who shot him? Or do we just not know?
I don't think we know.
I mean, crazy. The question is also, does it matter at this point?
Yeah, that is a good point.
It's like, I don't think the story, I could try reading it again, maybe.
I don't think it answers it.
But I don't think the story points in any direction. It just kind of starts us off on pretty much the mental collapse of this man as he learns about these cults, and his own trauma comes back to resurface and kind of upend his life. And we just learn about these bizarre cult philosophies, and it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah. And it just has this like great line that I'm looking at near the end, where it's, but we were fools, she and I, errant blockheads, each of us blind to or heedless of the readiest explanation that the world is an ungettable joke, and our human need to explain its wonders and horrors. Our appalling genius for devising such explanations is nothing more than the rim shot that accompanies the punchline. And I mean, I think that's what we're seeing with the
entire story.
Yeah.
He's basically just mocking us. He's like, so, you really want to know what happens? Joke's on you. You're not going to get in it.
Yep. You're like, these things just happen.
I love the last sentence where it's, but I fear that in spite of their efforts over the last 10,000 years, the followers of I are truly going to be gravely disappointed when at the end of all we know and everything we've ever lost or imagined, the rafters of the whole world are shaken by a single terrible guffaw.
Just perfect.
It's a really good one.
And again,
I'm still miffed, guys. I'm more like, damn you.
Yeah. It's great. And this is definitely if you weren't feeling that Lovecraft and Legati, the end here does, where it's like, well, it's just all a joke, and the clown probably died laughing, and we'll
never know who did it and why, and
and they're still out there. I think that there's at some point where he kind of like takes he talks about it, where how like the circuses know that these clowns of this cult are still kind of out and amongst them, and they're just there waiting their time, and that they're hiding in the circuses, and it's just such like a disturbing concept, an idea to think about, of like, oh, you're having fun at a circus and there's some clowns, and maybe one of those is part of this cult that thinks everything's a big joke.
So I'm actually doing some looking in Chabon's bibliography.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, he is one of the main writers on Star Trek Picard.
Oh, nice.
And he also has written like some pop songs too.
Oh my gosh.
Beyond his writing.
Okay.
And he also wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man 2.
Which Spider-Man 2?
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2.
Oh, that's good. I like it.
That one is. I love that movie.
I love that one. Yeah. It has Doc Ock.
Yeah.
I've only read 2 of his books, but they're both really great. I should probably read some more.
Yeah.
But I read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which is like a love letter to like Golden Age comic books.
Yes.
Which is a really beautiful book if you haven't read it. It's not horror at all, but if you like comic books, if you like superheroes, if you're interested in comic history, I highly recommend checking it out.
Nice.
And then he has a murder mystery called the Yiddish Policemen's Union, which takes place in alternate worlds where after World War II, they turned Alaska into the Jewish homeland. And it follows a bunch of Jewish refugees living in Alaska as a murder happens in this Jewish community.
Huh. That sounds really good.
It's a great book. I've read it almost came out 2007. I read it 2008. So yeah, almost over 10 years ago I read it, but it's really great.
Nice.
He's a really interesting writer where he is very like on the literary side of the literary mainstream, but he has such a love for like old pulp stories and like the weird fiction. He's won a Bram Stoker Award for one of his other horror short stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he dibbles in horror sometimes in short stories, but he's an interesting writer.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely see in this he knew the beat, like the beats, and knew how to like kind of craft this kind of weird story. Even though, like we said, it kind of follows that Poe detective or the Lovecraft kind of in detective-y thing. There's still him taking that and doing something different with it, and you can definitely read it in this where like if you didn't know who it was, like if you'd just taken his name off of it, you'd have been like, oh man, this is an awesome like weird story. I wonder who wrote this. So I think it's like that you can see it in here, and it's still you can see the literary side of things of just the way he kind of crafted this. But I really love this.
I enjoyed this one.
Still I think you guys would. I wish, honestly, I hope one day he revisits this like world of the story or this mythology.
Yeah,
like, he created such an interesting world.
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
With like, I want more. I just want. But
yeah,
I'm happy both of you enjoyed this one. It's a kind of a secret one. Like, I don't know. It's just, to me, I'm still caking over the fact this is published in the New Yorker. And, like, it slid under most, like, because like Matt and myself, like, we're super into weird fiction. Like, this is our shit. And I've never heard of this story until like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, and with how good the story is, you think I would have heard about it ages ago when I was like first getting into weird fiction. But I'm happy I came across it. It's a wonderful story.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing it to us.
No problem. Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Vitlame, what about you?
I'm also on Twitter at VitlameS.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088, and be sure to follow Abyss with Added to Staring. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.